So question 18. In how many ways can 60 be written as the sum of two or more consecutive odd positive integers that are arranged in increasing order? So consecutive odd positive integers, what that means is that between each of these integers, you're going to have a gap of +2. So if you write that out as an arithmetic sequence, you would have a as the first one, and then a plus 2, and then a plus 4, and so on, until you would eventually reach a number which is a plus 2 times n minus 1, where you have a total of n numbers in total, right? So we write that out using the arithmetic sequence sum. We would have a plus 2n minus 2 divided by 2 times n, which equals 2a plus 2n minus 2 divided by 2 times n, which comes down to 60, right? And so if we simplify that a bit by dividing this chunk of the fraction off, we would have n times a plus n minus 1 equals 60. And so let's look at here, right? We only have one equation, however, we have two different variables. And so we know that if you want to have two variables, you're going to need two different equations. If you have three variables, you need three equations. But actually, this is solvable because there's an implicit assumption here, which is that like on parity, right? So if we look at the parity of these numbers, we know that a has to be odd and that this thing, 60, is even. And so let's assume if n is odd, what would happen? If n was odd, you would have an odd number times odd plus odd minus odd. And so that comes down to an odd times odd equals an even, which is something that is not possible. So that means this is crossed out and that n has to be even. So now if n is even, what we can do is we can start from 2 and just go up through all of the even numbers and solve it accordingly, keeping in mind that a does have to be odd, and so that would be our solution to check. If a is not odd, then the solution is not correct. So let's start out, and we have here n and then a plus n minus 1. Let's start out with n equals 2. And then we do some quick subtraction. This has to be division, and this has to be 30. So let's come over here and solve for n plus a. So if n here is 2, and then we bring it back up, this has to be 30, and n is 2. So 2 minus 1 equals 1, which means a has to be 29. So we get 2, 29. And because 29 is odd, we know that this solution is correct. Now we continue in the same manner. 4, 15, and then this thing here would be 4, 12. We know that's wrong since 12 is not an odd number. And then 6, 10. We get 6, 5, which as we know is correct. And then you can keep going in 10, 6, but that's not correct. Since if you bring it back up here, you'll realize that this will make a negative number, so that would not be viable. So then overall, if we count, we have 1, 2 solutions, and that means there are 2 ways to arrange this in increasing order. Okay, next.